Hi there, this is a Serial Cynic again, coming to you with another video. I want to thank you for those who have subscribed so far, for those who have come into the comment section. Some of you are talking pure nonsense, but a good chunk of you making your points, asking your questions, and being respectful, which I appreciate. But just a minute ago, this topic crossed my mind. Something I've always thought about, and I figured I'll bring it up today. It touches on basically all the things I've spoken of in my videos so far. Conspiracy, Hebrew Israelites, religion, the Bible. And somehow I'm going to put all of them together in this video. What I want to talk about today is the fact that the human mind is an interesting thing. And I tend to be anal like that, to pay attention to a lot of human behaviors. I pay attention to noises. Even right now I'm paying attention to noise. I listen, and it always fascinates me how the mind trains the ears to ignore certain sounds. That I could live next to an airport and after about a week you're good. But let a pin drop, I'm jumping up looking around. Anytime you introduce noise, something new, into a normal setting, it's considered noise. For example, have you ever noticed that if two people are on the train, well, here in New York City, or on a bus, talking back and forth, okay, you hear their conversation, you just kind of like zone them out if you're not really paying attention, if it's nothing juicy or gossip they're talking about. But let those same two people have the conversation over a phone on the bus or on the train, where one person is on the train or the bus talking on their cell phone to the other person. Do you notice how annoying that is? So when they're on the phone talking to someone that you can't see the other person, it's annoying, it's disturbing. But if the two of them are sitting on the bus or train talking to one another, unless they're really loud and obnoxious, generally you hear them talking, it's just a part of what goes on there. So that's basically it. But now, what I wanted to really pretty much get to, it's how the human mind works when it comes to tragedy, when it comes to grief, when it comes to loss. And here's how it works and why it ties in so much with so much of what's gone on in the world. In ancient times, do you think ancient men, and I mean way back when, and you always had a few people in between who knew what was going on, but they were normally rejected, persecuted, kicked out of the community, alienated, called crazy. But do you think ancient men, when they walked out and they saw a mountain just turn red and start erupting fire and raining down ash out of the sky and probably killing some of their people, do you think they really knew what was going on? Or the mechanics of everything that was going on at the time? Not really. Based on what we have read, and what has come down to us, men were quicker to come to the conclusion that there is somebody inside that mountain, that there's somebody that's angry in there. And that's why the mountain just went crazy, killed a few of our people, or wiped out a community up the street, and a few of us have escaped. The mountain was there looking so peaceful, so quiet, it was bountiful. We used to go up on the mountain slopes and get our fruits, our foods and whatever. But look, it just turned against us. And now we can't grow any crops on the hillside. Our people have died. So they didn't understand the mechanics of what a volcano was or how it works. So what did they do? They basically went toward a default answer that they went up with. Must be some God. Must be, because of course the force that caused this mountain is much greater than them. That caused this mountain to erupt. So the go-to was, hey, must be some God we angered. Must be somebody in there that's angry at us. So let us go and try to appease it in some form or fashion. Let's offer sacrifices. Let's offer our firstborn. Let's offer our virgin women. And of course, there was always a con man who jumped up in the middle and like, I can speak for that God in there. I know what's going on. I know why he's angry. Do this, and that. Follow these rules, this and that. Bring your fatted calves. Bring your virgin women. Let's build a temple to it. Let me have sex with all the women and I'll. This is what happened back in those days. And it wasn't just mountains. It was also the waves. When the ocean that fed just turned into this violence, I should say, came in, washed away the coastline because, back in those days, many people lived along the sea or along rivers. So let's talk about a river also. The river just expanded, claimed all sorts of lives. Again, people not understanding what is going on. They start to have to fill in those gaps, fill in the blanks. There's a tragedy. What happened? These are the first questions you ask. What happened? Then you have no answers. So then it's, I think we angered somebody. Somebody's mad at us. Someone, a God, something greater than us. It's out there. It's mad at us for what we've done. We did something wrong. We made a wrong turn at Albuquerque. We didn't follow certain things. We didn't do certain things. And again, here comes a con man. Hey, I know the reason why. We didn't follow law 1, 2, and 3. We didn't follow these rules over here. What rules? These rules right here. Thou shalt this, thou shalt that, thou shouldn't do this, you should not do this. And if you follow this, and this prescription, it won't happen again. Just bring me your virgin women to the temple. Bring me your virgin boys to the temple. And all of your first fruits of all your good stuff, just bring it to the temple. Yeah, don't worry about it. I think this is what the God wants, okay? I'll take care of it for you guys. This was pretty much how the ancient world operated. And it basically is what gave us the foundations of religion. And we have the same thing that's going on today and has gone on throughout the course of history. Whenever there's a national tragedy or personal grief or whatever the case might be. I say that a lot, right? Whatever the case might be. I need to stop that. But whenever these things come about, the human mind goes into overdrive to try to make sense of what is going on. And when it doesn't know what is going on, it starts to create answers on its own. Again, operating from a point of not knowing what's going on, but yet getting answers. And people fall for the okie dokie all the time. And speaking about the Bible, let me give you an example. Here you have the Jews worshiping their God, have their national deity, paying lip service. Now again, this is according to the Bible. Paying lip service. The royal family and the priestly class generally try to stay the course and stay with the national religion or the national cult, which is Yahweh. But for the most part, the people out in the rural areas, as always tend to be the case, are doing their own thing, worshiping their own gods, doing whatever to get through everyday life. The next thing you know, the invading Babylonians come down, invades their country, invades their kingdom, and hauls off a bunch of people to exile. We read in the Bible where they're sitting by the rivers of Babylon, and you hear the anguish in their voice, and they're trying to figure out, wait, what happened? We're serving the biggest, baddest God out there, Yahweh. What happened? Why are we in this situation? What's going on? Then, of course, their religious leaders, here comes these con men again, jumps in. So just think of the Babylonians and the exile and the invasion like a volcano. They don't know what's going on. People died. These invading people came in. They had a God that was supposed to protect them, and yet they're in exile. So all of a sudden it's, hey, you know the reason why we're in this situation? We didn't follow our God like we were supposed to. We weren't doing what we were supposed to do. What do you mean, Hezekiah? Well, you know, he said to do this, 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 and that, and we did that, and this. And let me go back over the history of our people to show where we went wrong, where we made that left turn to Albuquerque. He called our father Abraham. He blessed Abraham's grandson with 12 sons, and we are the descendants of these 12 sons. And he made a covenant with Moses that was supposed to be passed on to us. And yeah, we sat in the wilderness and say, yeah, we'll follow the words of the Lord and whatever. And then we got right up and didn't follow them. And he had patience with us, trying to get us to come back, giving us little sample sizes of what happens when we follow him and what happens when we don't follow him. And finally, he just had enough of us, got upset, and allowed our enemies to come down and haul us away to captivity. That explains it. So what we need to do to get out of this mess and out of this situation is to follow his word, to do what he's asked us to do, because we're in this mess because of that. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, we don't know what's going on, but it must be because we did something wrong. We angered him in some way. And it's logical. And he got upset and allowed us to be in this situation. National tragedies tend to do this type of stuff. The conspiracy theories start rolling in. We see the same thing in our own personal lives sometimes. A loved one dies unexpectedly. You don't know what's going on. What happened? Is the first question that happened. But I saw him yesterday. He was healthy. He was this. He was that. It could also be something where you have a marriage and it's just gone bad and you're like, what happened? How come this? How come that? You start to look inward and you start to try to find answers. You have a wife that starts looking like, maybe I'm too fat. Maybe I wasn't attractive enough. Maybe I wasn't giving him enough sex. Maybe I wasn't cooking the right food. That's why he went to find another woman. You have people to this very day. Hurricanes come through the Caribbean region. Destroys this, destroy that. Guess what? Start to make sense out of it. Hart did it. Oh, it's the government trying to do this, this, and that, so that we would leave the island and this will happen and that will happen and so forth. So they sent the hurricanes. An earthquake happened somewhere. Oh, it happened because those people full of evil, they follow voodoo. They don't follow the true and living God. So you see how these conspiracies go? When the human mind doesn't understand something, when there are gaps in our knowledge, we try to fill in those gaps with answers. In some cases, we fill it in with God. Well, I don't know what happened. Must have been God. Or we fill them in with demons or the devil. Well, I don't know what happened. It must have been Satan. Or we fill them in with the usual punching boys. It's the government. It's the Jews. It's the white man. We fill them in when we don't understand what is going on. And there are professionals out there who study these things, who go to school to study these things, who spend years learning their craft. And something happens and they go out there to painstakingly start digging through the evidence, piecing through the evidence, putting things in labs, looking, studying, researching. And yet you can have Uncle Roscoe on the street corner with a bear in his hand, who could be 5,000 miles away from the situation, who have all the answers already. Well, the government did it. And this is why, because back in 1954, this, and that. You're like, yeah, Uncle Roscoe is making a whole lot of sense. And we run with these conspiracies. Now, I'm not sitting here and saying that sometimes these things that we think cannot be plausible and cannot be true. And sometimes it has been proven to be true. But this whole default answer for everything, God did it, God did it, God, no, Satan did it, Satan did it. Or it happened because we forsook God and we're not doing anything. And you look at it. How many times have I seen it growing up in church or heard it growing up in church? If my people will just serve the Lord and turn away from their wicked ways. So if we have a high crime problem, it's because people are not serving God or they forgot God. If a hurricane comes through, it's because God is mad at us. If an earthquake comes through, it's because God is mad at us. If a volcano erupts and kills people, it's because God is mad at us. And what's the solution? Come to church more, pray more, read your Bible more. And it brings me, of course, to the Hebrew Israelites, who follow the same script. We're in this situation today because we are cursed according to the Bible. We're in this situation today because we forsook the ways of Elohim or Yahweh or whatever they call him. So the solution for us to get up out of this situation is to turn our hearts, souls, and minds over to him and follow his ways. When we start doing that collectively, he will start to bless us, or he'll restore us back to our lost or former glory or whatever that was back when. It's the same thinking. We look around as black folks and we're like, why are we like the scourge of the earth? Why have we gone through all this madness, all this sadness, the atrocities heaped up against us? Why do we feel like the bottom of the barrel? Why do we feel like we can't get anywhere? Why does it feel like we're weighted down onto something that is not allowing us to rise? See the questions? You see the, if I can call it, national tragedy as us as black people? What is going on? And when we don't understand, then the answers start rolling in. Well, white people do this because they're not humans, they're Neanderthals, they were created in a lab somewhere. So we start with the dehumanizing. Can't figure it out. Something has got to be going on. Why are we just time after time on the back of the bus? Dennis, well, we're not serving God the way we're supposed to. Let's get back. Let's eat the right foods according to the scriptures. Let's observe the right day according to the scriptures. Let's wear the right clothing. Let's take this off, put that on. Let's get all righteous and holy because we're going to follow it the right way. Which, of course, leads to arrogance because all of a sudden it's going to be like, I'm doing it right, you're not. And this is how these things come about. Religion. As a matter of fact, the Hebrew Old Testament came to us because of trying to explain a tragedy. This is why most scholars will tell you that the final revision of the Bible, the Old Testament, came about during the exile or sometime after it, when the Jews are sitting there like, what in the world went wrong? And what was their response? We didn't do it right. And so the whole Old Testament, at least leading up to the exile, is written through that filter. What did we do wrong? So you have to go back and reconstruct the story to lead it up to show where we made that left turn to Albuquerque, when we should have been going to Zion. This is how these things come about. Again, it's just how our minds are. It's what some writers have called the God of the gaps. Where there's a gap, we fill it in with God, or we fill it in with some evil entity. I think it was Robert Ingersoll that said, and I'm paraphrasing it here, God begins where our ignorance starts. Something to that extent. And basically what it means is this. If we know something, we know something, we know something, it's good. But the minute there's ignorance where we don't understand something, we fill in the gaps with God. Here's an example. In the Bible, in the New Testament, we read about a young boy who was brought before Jesus, or a man who came before Jesus and said, Jesus, help out my son. He keeps falling to the ground, throwing himself in the fire, frothing at the mouth. What did the ancient writers think, or what the ancient people believe? They saw a person like that and they thought the person was demon possessed. In today's world, you see a person doing that with the knowledge we have today, the first thing you think is the person is having an epileptic seizure. Not possessed by Satan. But did the ancient man understand what an epileptic seizure was? Probably not. Most of the common everyday people probably didn't. You may have had some people in between who were learned and observed and noticed certain things and knew it had nothing to do with any spiritual entity. But to the common man, he's demon possessed. Jesus, cast out the demons out of him, please. Today, it's an epileptic seizure. We know we have to put something in the person's mouth that they don't bite off their tongue. We know we have to call 911. Or we know we have to get them the necessary medication. But just imagine saying that 2,000 years ago. People look at you like, what? It's Satan. He's being possessed. So you see, when we don't understand something, this is where it gets filled in with God, Satan, or some group that we just want to target. White people, the government, the this, the that, the this. Or, if you're white folks, well, this happened, it's black folks. We need to get rid of them. We need to this, we need to that. We need to get rid of all these immigrants. It's causing all this problem. So you might just want to think it over. I know as I'm talking right now, I know to some people it's like, oh, this, down in the comment section, oh, you know, it's a white this and a white that, and you just believe working for the white man. White man, my ass. This is just plain straight up observation and logic. Just think about it. I don't hope to lose a loved one, but we try to make sense out of it. And just think about how the human mind works, because the human mind cannot envision itself not existing. Once you come into this world, you can't see yourself not existing. That even when we die, we've made up entire scenes of what happens in the afterlife. There's a beautiful place called heaven. Because you don't want to think grandma just died and just rotting in earth somewhere. So it's like, oh, she's in heaven. Oh, my pet dog Fido. I'll meet him when I go over into the glory land. It gives us hope. Now, we've never been there. Nobody that we know of has ever been there. But there are people out there with vivid imaginations. Oh, he's in heaven right now enjoying this, and I'm going to meet him someday. Somebody we hate, or we don't like, or group we don't like, or they're in hell burning right now. Thank God they're down there burning and suffering for their sins and their crimes against us. None of us have ever been there. But yet people can tell you all about it. Doesn't that tell you something? Check your mind. Check yourself. Research stuff. And there are professionals out there who can give you the proper answer or point you into the right direction. Not Uncle Roscoe drinking beer. Not Amenhotep the 15th in cell block B telling you nonsense because he sounds eloquent and whatever the case might be. And yes, a stop clock is right twice per day. So sometimes a person can be talking a bunch of garbage, and somewhere in between there is truth that they're mentioning to you. It's not always easy deciphering what is the truth and what is the nonsense. But this is why you have to read, observe, use your brain to make logical decisions and reasoning, and try your best to leave the superstitions alone. In my case, I consider the whole God thing superstition. You may not think that, but try your best to leave the superstition out of your observations and out of your conclusions, and you will most likely get better results. Subscribe, like, comment. Tell your friends about it. Share the video. This is your serial cynic checking out. Have yourself a great day.